What am I going to list today? What am I going to list today? What am I going to list today? What's cool about it is if you ask yourself that question enough times, your brain just goes and figures out the answer. Suddenly at 3 o'clock that afternoon, you'll find yourself at a listing appointment and think, wait a minute, how did I get here? And it's simply because you asked yourself a question that morning and then embarked on finding the answer. How many of you held open houses this past weekend? Two people held an open house, 3 people out of 26. I think we need a new instructor because apparently I'm not communicating well. What happened to everybody else?
I was away on a girls' weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was taking care of something, but I have reached out to a lot of people to ask to do open houses and get a lot of response. I mean, if I don't have my own listing, obviously, but I guess gotta keep trying harder on that end.
I went shadowing an agent.
Great. How'd the shadowing go?
Okay, that's a good
Amazing.
idea.
I got very lucky. And it was exactly as you said. When I called her, she was like, oh my goodness, thank God that you called. I'm locked out of the Westport office right now. And I walked her through how to get in there.
See that? You were a hero.
Okay, shadow.
Yeah,
Right,
just
so-
shadow.
So again, the homework for this past weekend was either host an open house or shadow somebody. If you've never hosted an open house before, shadow, right? Trust me, there are plenty of open houses that are available for you to sit in. If you make a couple of phone calls and you don't find one, keep making them, right? Don't take no for an answer. Just keep calling till you find someone who has an open house available, right? The good news is that all of you who are away on vacation, you're all back now. So we can head into this weekend knowing that, because again, remember the reality of our markets, is seasonality a real thing? Let me ask that question. Is seasonality real?
Yes.
What do I mean by seasonality?
Sales start slowing down when we get closer to the holidays. People even take their listings off the market because they don't want to be disturbed during Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas.
Right. So seasonality is exactly that. It's the ebb and flow of listing inventory, of buyer activity, and it is real. Right. The simple reality is that seasonality shows up. Here's the secondary question. Is your participation in seasonality required? I see a lot of head shaking. I love that answer, right? Because it's not required. Oftentimes people argue back and forth about, well, no, seasonality is real. It's not real. It is real. It's not real. No, seasonality is real. Seasonality shows up. You have a choice, though, as to whether or not your business will follow the ebbs and flows of the market, right? You get to make those choices. And the way that you get to make a choice not to participate in seasonality over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks is to make sure that you're filling that pipeline of potential listings and potential buyers. And the way you find a whole bunch of those people is by hosting open houses over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. Make sense? Questions, comments, concerns?
Hey Rick, so I was gonna ask, so I literally just got access to the MLS like this morning. So can I look on there like through active listings and like see like which agents are with Keller Williams and just reach out to those agents randomly?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would do it. I would run a report by office code, right? You know how to do that? Run a report, scroll to the bottom, it says list office, right? List office codes are 3548 for the Stanford Market Center, KELW 120 for the Ridgefield Market Center, and then KELW 130 for the Newtown Business Center, and KWLY 01 for the Westport Business Center. right? And so you've got 4 different codes to look up. Just pull up active listings under those codes and then figure out where you want to be, right? You can skew it by town. Okay, I want to host open houses in this town this weekend. Great. So what properties are available in that town? And then you kind of check out the price range and make some phone calls to listing agents. Absolutely, 100%. That's the way you do it.
Hey, John, you can also on the front page of the MLS, on your front page, when you go into after you go through all the login parts, they'll have at least on my page, it's toward the bottom, and it'll say my company's active listings, and you can see everything from a market center that's listed, and you can sort it by town if you want, or by agent to figure out who you'd want to contact.
Yeah, so the struggle with that, Dana, is that I'm pretty certain that what the homepage gives you is my office's listings, right?
No, it gives you, I know, I see, at least for mine, it says my company, it has like the Stamford, it has the Westport people. I don't know about the Ridgefield and Danbury and Newtown, but I know definitely Stamford and Westport are in there, in that one.
Okay, well, I'll have to check it out because it used to be specific to an office code, right? If it's actually pulling a firm code,
Yeah.
that would be.
Yeah, it
That would
has
be
like
new.
both. It has one that's listed as my office, and for me, it just has whatever Westport has. And then it also has my company, which has like all us.
Great. I will double check that. So if they're using firm codes on the homepage, that's awesome because that does give you a shortcut on that. Awesome. All right. Anything else on our open house discussion from last Thursday? So before we move on from this topic, allow me just to say this. Please remember that 2 weeks ago tonight, when we started, I mentioned that our time together, if you really want it to be a powerful use of your time, needs not to be just popping in for 2 hours and listening to the content. You've got to decide to actually implement. You've got to take action on the content. It means you have to actually do, right? And so if we're spending an hour and a half like we did on Thursday on open houses, far too many of you did not then go and actually host an open house, right? So you need to dive in and do, right? Yeah, well said, Donna. It's not infotainment, right? So make sure that you're doing the do. And that's why we gave you one of 2 choices last week. Either host your own open house if you've done that before, or find someone to shadow and shadow an open house so that you have more experience going into this week to be hosting your own open houses, right? Trust me when I tell you, clients don't just fall from the sky. And please don't hear this as a lecture. That's not my intent. My intent is to make sure that you leave here in a couple of weeks with clients, with new business, with a new listing, with some buyers, because you've actually started implementing the things that we talked about, right? Yes, Marianne.
So when I visited several open houses, they happen to be a few agencies. So if you do something like that, and I sort of lingered to hear the comments and the questions when I visited. So it's not as good as actually remaining in one place for a period of time. But I found it useful. There were people that came from the neighborhood, and there were people that were, just had good questions and concerns. So I think that's a good backup, not ideal.
Yeah, so which is awesome. And if you've never done one yourself, what I would encourage is now this weekend, go and shadow somebody from the inside, right? Because I also can't speak to what agents from other what other brokerages are going to be doing, saying, or how they're running their open houses, right? So whereas immersion is definitely a positive, you definitely want to be shadowing one of your colleagues so that you can really get the full experience. And again, let's just leave it at that. Get the full experience.
I just want to say something. I not hosting an open house this weekend, but I am sponsoring my children's fall festival. So I decided to just have a table with my information, some goodie bags, and just put myself out there.
I love it. That's great, Maria. You know, the idea of putting yourself in the path of business like that's where it comes from. Again, it doesn't drop from the sky. Trust me, I sat and waited for it to drop from the sky for a little while. And what I found was that the clouds were very dry, right? There was nothing coming down. Where are you, buyers and sellers?
Yes,
right.
Yes, they are very dry.
And so the good news is the more you choose to put yourself in the path of business, the more business magically shows up, because it's not really magic, right? It's kind of common sense when you wave your hand and say, hey, look at me over here. I have a real estate license. I might be able to help you depending on what your needs are. Funny how some people will stop and say, I'm sorry, why are you waving your hands? And then you get to have a conversation around why you're waving your hands, right? Now, I'm not, I'm not speaking literally, right? Please don't go out on your corner and start waving your hands. Although if you do that, you might be surprised how many people either stop and say, are you okay? Or just speed up because they think like, we're not going to stop for crazy on the corner here. All right, so any other questions about not necessarily your open house experience from this past weekend, but about open houses in general? Anything that came up as you thought about our conversation on Thursday? Because I am certain that's what you had in your head all Friday or most of Saturday and Sunday. Anything that came up as you ruminated over our
Hey, Rick, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
It's Cal. I probably got 12 sheets of paper with email addresses, and most of them were incorrect. Is there a way to overcome that so that you get the correct email address, or is that like just what happened?
So you mean people who signed in?
Gave me an email address, and it got kicked back because it was not a real email address.
Right. So yes, great question. Let's address that. One of the ways that you can solve I call it like the Mickey Mouse, the Bengay, the Betty Boops from signing in to your open houses, and or the Michael Smiths with fake email addresses. Usually the email addresses they give are either correct or they're off by one letter or one number, because people aren't necessarily smart enough to come up with a whole brand new email to write down on your sheet, right? So if it's rickscott@kw.com, right, and I wanted to not give you my email address, it would be rickscott@kw.com. I just leave out the C, right, or something like that. So you usually get pretty close. But here's a couple of thoughts to help you get better info. The first is use a sign-in app. Use an open house app.
We did that.
Excellent. And so the good news is with an open house app, typically you're capturing their cell phone number. So even if you don't get the email, you have a cell phone number that you can text and call to, because you need a way to get the app to them, right? So oftentimes the way I used to use the app was to simply say, you know what, do me a favor, just give me your cell phone number and I'll shoot this app over to you, right? You share the app with them. The other thing that you can do is make it worth their while. One of the things that we used to do was have a quarterly drawing for some nice big gift basket or something that we would carry around from open house to open house to open house to open house, to simply say something like, please be certain to give us valid information because you're entered into a drawing for this gift basket of wine bottles and bottles of wine and glasses or something like that. More and more people, if they know that there's a reason for you to reach out to them, that's not just, oh, he's going to irritate me for the next 12 years of my life, will give you better information. What else, Christine?
Sign in to win.
You can
right?
certainly utilize the sign in
Sign
to
in
win
to
over
win.
the course of the next couple of weeks. Yeah, Christine, what else are you doing? You're muted.
You actually said what I was going to say, and it was all about giving a gift card, enter to win a gift card. But I also, during COVID, and I still continue to, I definitely print out the MLS sheets, but sometimes I'll say, we've gone paperless. So I'll send you the MLS sheet to your email. What's your email address?
Yeah.
Or if they have a specific question, let me get back to you, no matter what it is, even if I know the answer, what's your email address and I'll get back to you.
Yes, that's a great script. I hope everybody wrote that down. We've gone paperless, right? Let's make sure that we have a valid email address for you, right? What's the best email? My question was always, what's the best email address to get this valuable information to you? Right, not just any old address, what's the best one?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I love that, great idea. And the other version of the simple gift card, right? Maybe don't go, and again, you don't have to pull a gift card. Some people say to me, well, that kind of makes open houses expensive. Well, do one big gift card, like do a $50 or better gift card to someplace cool, and then just pull it once a quarter. Right, it doesn't have to be every single one. Just make sure that the details of your promotion say, we have quarterly drawings for this stuff. Any other ideas on that?
I have a question.
Yes, Maria.
Hi, so I have this database I like to use. I do have clients that I've helped for window treatments, and many of them I have created a good relationship with, but I'm kind of not know how to approach now that I'm also doing this without not sounding professional, since I'm using the contact, that I created with the previous company or with another company, another service. So how do I reintroduce myself if I wanted to reach out, because I have their emails, I have their contact, but how do I approach them now to say, hey, this is what I'm doing now?
Well, so great question. And what I would say is it can be as simple as the words you just said. Right? I think you answered your own question. It can literally be as simple as, hey, you know what? It's just so great to speak with you. It's been a while since we took care of your living room, window treatments. How is all that still looking? Any help you need in any other rooms? No, hey, before I let you go, I wanted to just let you know that as an added service to all of my window treatment clients, I am now a real estate licensee, which means if you or anyone needs to buy, sell, or create wealth by investing in real estate, I can absolutely help you do that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought of sending an email, but maybe making that personal connection again and then following up with my now information for real estate.
Yeah, 100%. I think reaching out and having those personal communications are important. And then I would absolutely follow it up with some kind of electronic follow-up, right? Maybe even a handwritten note with a couple of business cards in there, right? If you really want to make that personal touch and connect the dots for people. That way, if you have business cards for the other business and your new business cards, you can put them both in there so that they're seeing all the wonderful things that you can help them out with, right? And I think I'm so glad you asked me that question, because let's remember that reaching out to people to let them know what we do is not an annoyance, it is a service, right? We offer a service,
Yeah.
just like any other service-based business. And so we're just simply offering that service,
That's a good approach.
right? And so the idea, I love the fact that you actually come from another service-based industry that is sort of related to real estate, right? It's about houses, or it's at least about the inside, the decorative portion of inside of houses. They're just, you can just link them so easily, right? And for those of you,
Not knowing if it was, like crossing, that, how people get about sharing their information, but in my case, I already been to their homes, already, known them.
yeah, that ship has sailed for those people in your world. So, right. And again, as long as you connect the dots with, I've added a service, right? It's just,
Okay.
it's literally just adding a service to the long list of services that you can provide to them.
Yeah, that's definitely a good approach, an added service. Yes, yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Love it. You're welcome. You're welcome. And the other thing that I would suggest to any of you, and again, if you don't have something that related, you can connect dots that don't really connect, right? No one but you will worry about whether they really connect or not, right? If you used to be a buyer at Macy's and now you're in real estate, right? You can connect the dots by simply saying, hey, just wanted to reach out and, let you know I've taken my negotiation skills to a whole new industry. I'm now a real estate licensee. And so instead of haggling for the best best prices on overcoats for Macy's, I now get to help buyers and sellers how would you finish that? I can now get to help buyers and sellers create the results they're looking for with real estate purchases. Just another added service. Again, it gets better if you spend a little time on it. But again, just pulling things out of my ear, you can always connect any dots, even because you're the only one who will judge whether they really connect, right? Cal, did we answer your question earlier?
Yes,
Perfect.
thank you.
You're welcome. And the last piece on that is, remember that you're also dealing with the general public. And so are you going to get kickbacks? Are you going to get fake names and fake numbers? That's just kind of part of the game. It's why the numbers are so important. It's why we're saying, are you doing 70, 80, 90, 100 open houses in a year? Because it's a numbers game. If you really want to earn the money that you want to earn from open houses, you've got to start remembering that you're going to touch all these people, come into contact with all these people, and get the information from this number, communicate with this number, and sell houses to this number. It's just a big funnel. So you've got to go big at the top so that you have more and more drip out the bottom. All righty. So where should we go next from a source of business perspective? Shall we talk about expireds? Want to talk about expireds a little bit? We got an enthusiastic yes from John. So we know he's going to go dive into expireds. All right, so somebody define what an expired is. I recognize we throw that term around sometimes as if everybody just knows and understands what that is. What when we say an expired, what's an expired?
A property that was once listed, but the contract might have ended for whatever reason and now is expired.
Yeah, right. So the literal definition is it was on the market, like on the MLS, and the contract, it didn't sell and the contract expired, right? The expiration date has come and gone and it's now off the market. And so let me ask this question. If there's, where do you find expired properties?
On the MLS.
Right, on the MLS, absolutely. When do they expire?
And the contract's over.
Yes, what time of day do they expire specifically?
Midnight.
Right, so midnight. So it's just important to know that, right, the expiration date is the expiration date, and it expire at midnight. So for those of you who sleep a lot less, right? You can actually get some of your data before you go to bed. For those of you who are up early, you can get it in the morning, right? Just know that there's almost always someone who's up earlier than you, right? And for those of you who sleep in, you may have to rethink your sleeping schedule if you're going to be an expired, if you're going to have success with expireds, right? And so they expire at midnight when the contract is done. So now they've come off the market. A lot of these folks have been on the market for 3, 4, 6 months or so. They haven't sold. Talk to me a little bit about how those sellers may be feeling the morning after their property expires off the MLS.
Very frustrated.
So frustrated may well be one of them. What else?
I'm not sure everyone realizes it.
Yeah, surprise, right, Marion? That's a really good point. Sometimes they're surprised. I can't tell you how many calls I made to expireds and they said, oh, no, that's not true. No, we're still on the market. Would it surprise you to know that there may be a different answer to that? Right? And what's fun about that is they're expired off the MLS. And so let me ask that. With expireds, do you have a right to be talking to the owners of those properties?
Yes.
I see a lot of head nodding. Yes, absolutely you do. As long as the property is expired and hasn't gone back on the market, you do have a right to talk to those sellers. What about a canceled listing? Do you have a right to talk to a canceled listing?
Yes.
Yeah, you do. A canceled listing, you absolutely do, because a canceled listing, the contract has been canceled. What about a withdrawn listing?
That's no.
Yeah, that's still
was
off
the
limits, right? So if you're going to go after properties that haven't sold, you're looking at expireds and canceled. Withdrawn, however, the contract still exists between the seller and the listing agency, so they're off limits, just to be clear. So no on withdrawn, no on temporarily off the market, because those still have valid active contracts. Expireds and cancels are your opportunity. So let me ask this, let's just get through some process and then we'll get into what those calls look like. So you pull a report in the morning, right? You see in the towns that you are going to prospect expireds into that there's a whole bunch of expireds that showed up, right? Because the MLS hot sheets will show you the expirations. You can also set up searches in the MLS to deliver you expired listings every morning for the towns that you are interested in exploring. So that's great. Now you have a whole list of properties. In the old days, the seller's name and telephone number just used to be at the bottom of the listing, right? So it was easy. It expired, you scroll down to the bottom and you just called the seller. That's not the way it works anymore, right? So then the question becomes, well, where are you getting everybody's phone number?
Skip tracing, maybe?
We kind of had some info with Deb. I mean, you could go in the public records on the listing and then get their names and go through that, or utilize a service, obviously, once you get the name.
Yeah, so sometimes public records, sometimes those kind of free info search sites, right? Although I find that the free stuff is getting less and less relevant the further we get away from the more people are looking for you to use their pay service, right? And so what else? Where else can you look?
You can call information for the phone numbers, but they charge a lot now for that.
Yeah, so you can call information, which puts you in the
I
poorhouse.
learned that the hard way when I got my last phone bill, and I had called information and they were charging, I think, like almost $3 per call to get a phone number. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is not the most financially efficient way or effective way to get numbers. What else are you using, Christine?
Spokio. Again, it's not terribly cheap, but it's not terribly expensive. And I find that their numbers are more correct than most places. And sometimes you get a correct email as well.
I'm
which
sorry,
service is
Christine, I
that?
couldn't hear what that was.
It's called, sorry, there's an echo. It's called Spokio.
Yep, so spokio.com, Marissa put it in the chat. That's
Right.
them.com, right? You can subscribe to services like Cole, C-O-L-E, Realty Resource, right? There's a bunch of systems out there that will obtain numbers. The struggle with Cole is that Cole is so broad, right? You sometimes get, I can always tell when someone's using Cole when my son gets texts to his phone saying, hey, we'd love to buy your house at 46 Continental Drive in Ridgefield for cash. Like, okay, well, he just lives here. He doesn't own the house, right? But he's on my phone records. And so, systems like Cole that pull all that data, they just dump all the data and all the telephone numbers, right? And so sometimes you get somebody else in the house, sometimes you get an old number. There's one of the best ways, if you're really into prospecting outbound for something like expireds, the best way for you to get accurate information quickly and consistently is to pay for it, right? I wish there was a different answer to that. And yet today there really isn't a different answer to it. You could spend most of your day trying to obtain the data that you need, that one of these pay services will just deliver to you every single morning, right? You could use systems like the Red X or Vulcan 7, which are expired based or foundationally expired call systems that will scrub the expireds, make sure they're not relisted for you, and deliver to you what's left every single morning. So there are systems that you can plug into to get you better numbers. So we talked.
Did you put those in the chat box, Russ? The ones that you think are the best?
Yeah, so it's the Red X. And again, if somebody can type them in for me, that'd be awesome. The Red X and Vulcan 7. Vulcan like Mr. Spock Vulcan. Like live long and prosper Vulcan. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. And then, of course, there are a bunch of other calling services like Mojo and Land Voice. There's a bunch of, I think Brivity has an expired section to it. What's the other one that a lot of people are using? Oh, goodness. I can't think of it. It'll come to me. So again, a whole bunch of different services. You know what I would do? I would just, if you're interested in these services, go to Google and type in real estate expired services or real estate calling system services expires. You'll get the whole kit and caboodle, the whole list, right? And then if you want to vet some of them, utilize the ALCs in your market centers to ask those questions, because a lot of them are using them pretty consistently. So let's go back to how are those folks feeling? So we had frustrated, we had surprised. How else? Okay, Dave.
Angry.
Yeah, so some people are angry. What are they angry about?
Maybe they're not trusting the realtor that they use. Maybe put a black eye on all realtors. They don't think that the process is proper.
Yeah, so let's get some clarity around that, right? Because what they're angry about is the fact that their house didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
Who they project that on, yes,
Exactly.
Can sometimes be their previous agent and sometimes the industry as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like okay, I had nothing to do with the last 6 months of your property not selling, but in some seller's mind, because you have a license and the person who didn't help them get to Atlanta on time also has a license, therefore you must all know each other and you're all the same, you're all against me, right? So remember that there's lots of, the point I'm looking to make here is sometimes when you reach out to an expired, or at least the owner of an expired, if you were reaching out to expired persons, you'd need a Ouija board, right? That's probably a different set of skills than what we're talking about. So you're not expired people, but expired properties. But the owners of those expired properties, there could be a bunch of emotion, right, wrapped up in that phone call, right? Just what you want at 8 o'clock in the morning is someone who is emotional. Just remember why you're making the phone call. You're making the phone call not to list a property, right? Because the best way to exacerbate whatever emotion might be going on with that owner of the expired property is to call with the intent of listing the property. You need to call to find out how you can help, right? I know that's a big shocker as we start our third week together, right? I know you've never heard that before. And yet, when you make a phone call outbound to someone who clearly is struggling creating the result that they were looking for, when you make an outbound phone call to say, hey, how can I help? It immediately sets you apart, right? Now, talk to me a little bit about why most real estate agents, this may be a weird question to hear for some of you. Why do most real estate agents not choose to reach out to expireds? Some of you are scratching your heads thinking, I don't understand. I'm pretty certain that everyone does. That is untrue. Go ahead, Don and John.
I was thinking maybe because like it's a known method to obtain leads, and because it's a known method, some like especially like newer agents or some agents that like don't want to deal with it, rather find other methods to obtain leads because they know like it might be like oversaturated with agents trying to obtain the leads.
Yeah, so that's definitely one reason why most real estate agents do not call expireds, is because in their head, they believe that they're one of 1.4 million people all calling that same expired, right? Or if it's something local, right, they're one of 17,000 people in the MLS all calling that same expired. Or they're one of 1,000 people, or they're one of 500 people in their office calling the same expired. And what's fascinating about that is that is 110% untrue, right? There's actually a very small sliver of real estate agents who consistently reach out to expireds, and an even smaller segment that consistently follow up, even if they've made that first phone call. What else, Donna?
I think that a lot of times they're relisted immediately with the same agent. So I'm always afraid to call like, and now, am I now calling and they really do have a contract and now I'm stepping on somebody's toes?
Right, and so the good news is that, monitoring, so if you're using a service, those services are kind of scrubbing those opportunities for you. You do need to kind of be cognizant of the fact that if something goes back on the market, you're now not really able to make that connection. However, allow me to assuage some of your fears, because if you run a list at 7:30 in the morning and you start calling that list by 8 o'clock and something happens to go back on the market at 8:15, that you got the information a half hour ago and you're making an outreach, and the person says, you know what, how dare you call me? Which, by the way, they don't talk like this, by the way, right? How dare you call me? I'm relisted with my old agent, and I know for certain that you are unable to reach out to me at this point, and so you are breaking all the rules. Again, they don't talk like that. I'm doing that for effect and to make a point. All you need to do is have a really good I'm sorry script, right? And so remember that stepping over or on a line is only a big problem if in fact you don't own it and then just apologize for it. So in a circumstance like that, I could simply say, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Your previous agent is acting faster than I can keep up with the change. I am so sorry to have interrupted you. I wish you the absolute best of luck. Have a great day. Bye. Right. And so then you just move on. And what's real is most of the time, people, instead of saying what I just said, people will say, oh, you know what? I'm back on the market, or I've never come off the market. And you get to say, oh, you know what? I am so sorry. Again, things happen really quickly in our industry. And now you're on the MLS and pop it on up. There it is, active. You know what? There you are. That looks excellent. You know what? I wish you the absolute best of luck. You have an awesome day today. Enjoy your morning. Bye. Right? Just remember that, Frank, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I'm going to mute you because there's some background noise. Thank you. So just remember that in those I'm sorry scripts, please don't add in any, if there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to call me, right? That's called solicitation. And if they already have an existing contract, you're not permitted to solicit that business. You can certainly call and say, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. Have a lovely day. But the second you add in, I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. Hey, if there's anything, if it doesn't work out with your current situation, please don't hesitate to call. Or if there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to call. Now you've crossed the line, right? Do you hear the difference? Gee, so sorry, have a great day is different than, hey, write my name down just in case it doesn't sell again, right? Because that's the message you're communicating by adding any of those solicitation lines in there, right? So just be cautious around that. And Donna makes a really great point, right? Because I'm going to broaden what Donna said to a simple word. And oftentimes agents don't utilize expireds as a valid source of business because of fear, right? Fear of something, fear of maybe breaking the rules, fear of stepping on someone's toes, fear sometimes of being yelled at, right? I know people who believe that the owners of expired properties eat their young. And they're just fearful, like, oh my goodness, like why would I ever, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, why on earth would I call someone who's going to yell at me? We're going to address that in just half a second. Frank, did you have a question?
My question was, how quickly does the MLS update? Like in that scenario where we look at it in the morning and it says that it's expired, if the agent, the existing agent, which had just expired, did re-sign, I mean, he or she goes on MLS and it's instantaneously? Or
Yes,
can we literally say at this moment, it's not showing up on MLS? Sorry if you just re-signed.
Yeah, the MLS is real time, right? Now that may not always cover someone signing a document in order to get it back on the market or extending a contract. And so again, just, in those scenarios, always err on the side of smart and cautious, right? If the homeowner is saying to you, okay, last night I just signed a new contract, and so I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why it's off the market. You simply say, you know what, it's likely just a delay in getting that re-upped. I wish you the absolute best of luck. You have a great day. And then you jot down the address so you don't make a mistake of accidentally calling it again. You move on, right? Does that answer that, Frank? Okay, perfect. So let's kind of address the, Dana asks, how early is too early to make calls? You know what? You will each come to your own conclusions about that, because the information that I'm going to give you, probably 50 to 70% of you will think that that my answer is way too early, right? When I was calling expireds, I was calling expireds anywhere between 7:30 and 8 to get started, which means I was 7:30, 7:45, 8, 8:15, 8:30, right? Because it's usually about an hour or so a day. And the reason I was making those phone calls that early is because I wanted to make sure I caught people at home before they went off to work, right? So again, you'll have to make that determination. There is no right or wrong answer, except to understand that if you have people who are aggressively going after expired appointments, the early bird gets the worm. The early bird gets the appointment, right? If you're calling expireds at 9 or 10 o'clock, and I was on the phone with them earlier this morning, you're not getting appointments with those expireds. I've already taken care of that. Right, so just recognize that you know, you have to balance your want and desire to offer someone services and help them create a result that they didn't create versus, you know, the etiquette version of real estate. And again, there are some of you on this call that you'll never make a phone call to anybody before 9 o'clock. I get that. I just want you to recognize that there is no overall law of the universe that prevents you from doing that, right? That's a decision that you have made. And as long as you are okay with your decision and the results that decision ultimately brings you, then I'm not making that decision right or wrong. You just have to recognize that each of those decisions comes with results. And I found that my results were better the earlier I called because I got more people and I was able to convert more appointments and then and beat my fellow agents to the punch. Just saying. I told you I wouldn't lie to you. That's just the truth, right? So one of the things to make sure that you understand is that expireds themselves hold a very near and dear place in my heart. I built my entire real estate career on expireds. I didn't know a soul when I moved to the town that I started my real estate career in. I didn't even know a soul from the town that I came from, right? Fairfield County might as well have been Siberia for me when I started my career. And so I decided I'm going to just go in it and go after as many strangers as I possibly could. And so I held open houses until my feet hurt. And I contacted expireds in a 10-town radius until people wouldn't talk to me, right? And so I tell you that, and I was very successful on the expireds thing. I was successful on the open house thing, which drove me to build a database, which allowed my business to explode once a year or so in, as I built that database and then started to do the database work because I had spent the year building it, combined with the open house and the expired work, right? And so I tell you that simply from the perspective of a lot of times people think, well, I'm newer to the business or I'm relaunching my career and I've never really been an expired person. I think I'll stay on that track. And for those of you who are looking for a fast track to listing inventory, expired kind of works. There is this thought that nowadays, because everything goes on the market and sells, that there are no expireds to be talking to. I will tell you, if you pay any attention to the MLS, that's not true, right? Not everything sells. A lot of things sell, and yet not everything. So be careful that you're not brainwashing yourself with, you know, it's kind of like I had a conversation. I saw an attorney friend of mine at the bank earlier today. And he said, so Rick, how's the market? And I said, you know, the market's awesome. Why do you ask? Which, by the way, is my answer to that question, no matter who asks me. It's awesome. Why do you ask? Right? It always flabbergasts me when I hear people ask a real estate agent, how's the market? And they say things like, oh, goodness, it is so frustrating. Or it's not, you know, it's not good. Oh, it's in a spiral down. It's in a, you know, there's just nothing for anyone to buy. Okay, what are you doing? Why on earth would you be saying all these negative things about the market to people who may be asking you the question because they want to be in it? Right? I mean, my stars. So the answer when someone says, how's the market? The answer is always, it is great. Why do you ask? Well, I ask because I'm thinking about putting my house on the market. Oh man, do we have a lot to talk about? The momentum for sellers is awesome. Or maybe their answer is, well, I've been thinking about, you know, stopping my rental and buying my first property. Oh, wow. Boy, do we have a whole lot to talk about. Interest rates are at an all-time low. We should meet. right? Or maybe they say, I don't know, I've been thinking about getting into real estate invest. I heard somebody say something one time about creating wealth by investing in real estate. And it just kind of sounded nice. I don't know. Okay, is that still a thing? Oh man, is it? I'm so glad we bumped into each other at the bank. Sounds like we should set an appointment to have a conversation about how to get you started on your wealth building plan by buying investment real estate. Have I missed anybody? Buyer, seller, investor, right? So there's nobody that the market isn't useful for right now, right? So be careful that you're not overthinking some of this stuff. I know it sounds ridiculous to sit and have a conversation about how you might answer, how's the market? Please note, it is the #1 question that you as a licensee get asked on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Once people know you and know that you're a real estate licensee, that's the question they ask. How's the market? How's the market? How's the market? They'll ask you on Facebook. They'll ask you in person. They'll ask you in the grocery store. They'll ask you at a party, right? They'll ask you, oh, it's just, if you don't bring it up, what's cool is you don't have to, because they do, right? They go and bring that up. So anyway, I saw this attorney friend of mine at the bank earlier today, and he said, how's the market? And I said, great, why do you ask? And he said, well, because we've been pretty busy. And I said, well, yeah, I'm sure you have, because so have we. He said, yeah, but I'll tell you what, the big problem is that there's just no inventory. And I said, Patrick, I'm curious, are you aware that that's not 100% true? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, if you run the numbers year to date through the end of September in 2021, 2020, 19, 18, 17, and 16, in Fairfield County as a whole, we've actually had the same number of listings, give or take, every single year. He didn't know what to say because he had made an assumption because he listens to what people are saying. And sadly, he listens to a lot of people inside of our industry who are walking around saying things like, the market is so frustrating, there's just simply no inventory. Guys, that's not true. It's the same amount of inventory with a whole ton more buyers. What we have is a surplus of buyers, not a lack of inventory. And I think when you really start to understand that, like some of you, this is the 3rd or 4th time you've heard me say this, because I said it on the 9 o'clock call last week. I said it, I think, last week in this class. I said it at a mastermind, right? But it's important for us to recognize what the facts are and educate people that we come into contact with about what the facts are. Having excess buyers is a different issue and a different mindset around, and a different path to troubleshoot than not enough inventory. Yes? Am I just talking into a fan here? Come back to me. Right, so do recognize that there is opportunity there. I have no idea why I'm telling you this story. It was going to cycle back for a reason, and I can't connect the dots. So
it's probably because you are trying to get us to understand how to speak enthusiastically and positively in random situations where we're working.
Yes, you know what, and let's just go with what Alex said, because I am certain that's what I was attempting to do, because I like what she just said. So even if I wasn't, I am now, right? The idea of how you speak matters, and that does circle back into our expired conversation, because how you speak does matter, right? When you are addressing someone who is disappointed or upset or whatever, right? Asking them, gee, I'm curious, why do you think your house didn't sell? That is not the best path forward at 8:15 in the morning when someone's irritated that they just spent 6 months and didn't have the results show up, right? Why would you focus them on the negative? So what I'd like to do is, oh, you know what? Well, crapadoodles, I forgot to do one thing. So we're going to push the pause button just half a second because I want to show you, well, I can just put it in here. Paste. Go. Okay, I just put a link in the chat. That link now has, I think, all of your Ignite materials in it as on a Google Drive. So that you don't have to go and search in my KW. You don't have to wait around for emails to go out to you because after tonight, we're going to start sending you script work that's not on my KW. It's our own stuff, right? So that should bring you right to a drive that lists all the power sessions, so you have access to them there. But then if you keep scrolling past the power sessions, you'll see there are expired scripts. There's anatomy of a buyer transaction. There's listing consultations. That's the rest of the stuff that we will then start using as we move forward. So we just thought it was kind of easier to give it to you in that one drive than have you go into my KW for some and wait for emails for the other. So everyone now has access to that. If for some reason you're on your phone and you're not seeing the chat or whatnot, I will send out this link late tonight to everybody so that you have it in an email so that you can access it a little later on. So in the meantime, however, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I think I'm going to do that. Hold on a second. And so what I want to do is I just want to demonstrate for you just a quick version of what an expired call looks like, right? We're not going to spend the entire night on expireds. God knows we could spend a whole week, 9 to 5, really going into expireds in depth. We're not going to do that tonight, but I do want to at least give you some idea of what a call like this kind of looks like or sounds like so that you can understand how the scripts kind of work. Now, let me ask this question because it's a really important question and it sets your head as to how you're going to approach reaching out to the owners of expired properties. Other than coming from contribution to help them solve an issue, right? What is the main goal of reaching out to an expired property owner?
Get the listing.
So I love that answer. And I love that answer because it's the incorrect answer. and yet it's the answer that was in 80% of everyone's head.
Okay.
Right? You were just brave enough to say it out loud. And the reason it's not the right answer is because you don't list property over the telephone.
Okay. Well, eventually I get the appointment then.
Oh, now we're talking, right?
Okay.
So your goal, the goal is to, and it's a really important distinction, right?
Okay.
Because trust me, I have been down both paths and I've trained people specifically in expireds and listened to their calls. I had a great,
No, I mean that.
a great expired training a couple of years ago where our last couple of days in class was a practical, right? And so we made live phone calls and it was awesome because the agents called me first and then called the expired as a secondary call. So I was actually on the other line listening to them make the phone call so I could kind of coach them through. I had all these great scripts written out. And so as they were going down this one path, I would hold up something that said, no, let's redirect here. And they would redirect there. It was actually a whole lot of fun. And they started to understand how to utilize these scripts and navigate the calls. But the thing that I see most often, the mistake that people make is that they start to have conversations as if they're listing the property on the telephone, which again, you just simply can't do, right? You're not having conversations about marketing on the telephone. No one's signing a document with you. You're not having conversations about price on the telephone or about process on the telephone, right? All of those things are what you do face to face in a listing appointment. And so what I want you to always remember is the reason for a call, the outbound phone call to the homeowner in an expired scenario, is to set an appointment. Now, oftentimes people say to me, well, that seems odd, because if they have questions, why wouldn't I answer them? Who has an answer to that? Because there's a pretty valid answer to that.
Makes you seem too readily available, maybe, or unprofessional, because you're just willing to answer whatever they ask whenever they want on their terms.
Well, so I love that answer, John. It's unlikely the other person on the other end of the phone is thinking. You're 100% right. It's just unlikely that they're intuitive enough to actually get there, right? But you're not wrong in that you do kind of want to reserve some of what you do for someone who's willing to give you an appointment, right? What's that saying? Like, who's going to buy the cow if you give away the milk for free? Right. And so there's a version of that here, which is pretty much what John just said, but not weird like I did. Go ahead, Kate.
I was just going to say, you really want to get in front of them if you can to have the conversation. So you don't want to do it over the phone because you just want to try and set that appointment to meet them.
Absolutely. And one of the main reasons, I said this last week, if you remember, you are all, every single one of you, way more powerful in person than you are on the telephone, right? The telephone cuts your energy in half. You have zero opportunity to communicate via body language on the telephone, right?
Right.
If you're funny, like if you're smart on the telephone, you seem 50% less smart. If you're funny on the telephone, you seem 50% or 75% less funny, right? Because nobody can see your face. A big part of why some people are funny is because they're expressive, and none of that exists on the telephone, right? You're also not human on the telephone. And I don't mean that as like a joke. I mean, people can't see you. You're not tangible, right? So like, who is this voice from nowhere who is now giving me all this information, right? So just remember that and from a business perspective, no one's signing a document on the telephone, right? So you need to pivot all of that. When people start asking me questions on the telephone, here's what I say. Wow, you know what, Kate, that you seem to have a lot of questions. I am so glad I called today. Hey, listen, I have some time later this afternoon at about 4 or later in the evening around 7. Which of those works best for you for a quick conversation in person? Right, and then Kate just picks one. That's called an alternative close, 4 or 7. But we just moved to, sounds like you have tons of questions. Let's meet. Right? Now, Kate may say, oh, well, you know what, can't be, I'm not sure either of those times work. I just wondered, could you just answer the questions on the telephone? You know what, it is a great question. I do get asked that often. Unfortunately, in order for me to best answer your questions and give you the data that really benefits your results, that's going to take a little more time than I currently have on the telephone, and includes some really great visuals. So if 4 or 6 tonight doesn't work, are you certain neither of them work? Oh, well, maybe I could make 6 available. Could we do 6:30? Oh, you know what, 6:30, I can absolutely make that happen. See you then, bye. Right, you see the point though. So I'm simply going to continue to answer as to why we need to meet. It's okay to simply say, that's going to take a little longer than we currently have on the telephone. I one time had some guy say, oh, that's okay, I have all the time in the world, which is why I added the and include some really great visuals that you need to see, right? Because I had to combat the, oh, no worries, I got nothing to do. Like, I mean, this guy clearly needed a friend. He didn't need a realtor, he needed a friend. So he was really glad I called and had all the time in the world to chat with me. Make sense? So remember that what you're looking for is an appointment. There were a couple of hands, and I don't, John, yours was up and then down. Did we cover your question?
No, I was just gonna say, so the other day, I made a little video on my Instagram because a lot of people had swiped up on one of my stories saying, 'cause I said, should I make a video on how to get your real estate license? And like over 60 people swiped up and said, yeah. So I made a little video. The video was on like a little under 2 minutes long. And I'm normally very like energetic, lively, goofy. But I watch myself in a video and it's like, sheesh, like as you were saying, my energy is nowhere near like how I would be in person or if someone like were to talk to me and have a conversation.
Yeah, you just really have to kind of watch that, right? I know that, you know, just Zoom, right? Even though we can see each other, or at least the 50% of you that I can see, right? We can see each other, and yet the energy is just different, right? I have to tell you, just to be transparent, we finish at 6 o'clock, and I like stumble out of this room because for 2 hours on Zoom, right? Knowing that part of my job is to make sure I'm sending energy through over the whatever waves, right? So it's not just information, but energy. It's exhausting, right? And that's not a complaint at all, because I absolutely love spending this time with you guys every time I get to do it. But it's just a comment on I could do this all day long in person. Zoom is just way harder because I feel like I have to send so much more out there to make sure that you're receiving as much as I want you to receive. So just remember that, right? The digital versions of communication just kind of cut you in half. And so pivot to an in-person where your power kind of just shows up. And if you don't believe that, trust those of us who are nodding our heads and talking about it today until you start to feel it, because it's 115% true, right? All right, so let's do this. Kate, did you have another question, or is your hand just still up from before?
Nope, still just up. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'll take it down. No worries.
Thank you.
And so here's what I want to do. I want to give you a quick example of what some of these expired scripts actually look like, right? Now, this is Doris Carlin, who works in the middle of the country. She works in Missouri's Joplin, Missouri, I think is where Doris is at. You have another script further down that comes from Ron Wexler. Ron Wexler is more of a city realtor, right? He's from Chicago. And then you have Michael Ann Byerly, who I don't remember exactly where she's from. And I think you have Tim Heil. So you have a couple of different versions of this, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to just kind of visually see where we're at on the top of this page. And I want to just demonstrate for you what one of these conversations can look like. Right now, somebody just volunteer. I can't see you, so you're going to have to unmute. Somebody volunteer to be my seller, because it would be great if I could just kind of run this through with somebody on the other side. Donna Gilbert, thank you so much. And so do me a favor. The whole point of us doing this little role play is to kind of run through the 4 or 5 questions that really make up the front-loaded, powerful start to a call to an expired. So in this scenario, I'm happy to, if we want to later on, kind of for fun, run through objection handlers for like jerkier people. Yeah. But do me a favor, don't be jerky on this one. Let's just make this a sort of a more conversational, simple conversation, because I want people to hear the through line. Mm-hmm. All righty, so this is how, if you focus on obtaining an appointment, here's how your expired calls could go. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Yes, hi, Ms. Gilbert.
Yes, speaking.
Yes, hi, this is Rick Scott with Keller Williams Realty. I'm sure that you have figured out by now that I saw you come up today on the MLS as an expired property, and I was just calling to see if you were still interested in getting your home sold.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yes, yes, I am.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Ms. Gilbert, do me a favor. I'm curious, had you sold your home, where were you going to, where were you headed?
We were headed down to Florida.
Oh, Florida, how nice. Whereabouts in Florida?
I don't know, somewhere, Boca.
Oh, Boca, nice, very nice. I'm curious, what was bringing you to Boca?
I just wanted to get away from the winters, ready to downsize.
Oh, yes, winters. Would it surprise you to know that winters are like the #1 answer when I hear people talking about going down south? It is winters, absolutely. And so, so Ms. Gilbert, knowing that you were headed to Florida to escape the winters, when did you want to be there?
Well, we were hoping to be there right after Thanksgiving.
Oh, ouch. Okay, well, you know what? I am glad I called today. It sounds like you have some urgency in getting the result that that you're looking for in terms of a buyer for your home. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know what, Ms. Gilbert, one of the things that I specialize in is getting homes sold that didn't sell the first time around. And so I'm wondering, would there be some benefit in you and I meeting for maybe 30 or so minutes to talk about how we can get that job done for you? I have some time later at 5:30 or 7 this evening. Which works best for you?
Well, I suppose 7 would be good.
That's awesome. One quick question. Will all decision makers be able to be there at 7 o'clock?
Yes, I will be there.
Excellent. Very good. You know, I never wanted to make an assumption. Well, that sounds perfect. You know what? If you have any questions between now and then, I'm going to shoot you my contact information. If I could just take down a quick email for you, and we do. Other than that, I will look forward to seeing you at 7 o'clock, getting your home back on the market and getting you to Florida as quickly as we possibly can.
That would be perfect.
You enjoy your day today. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Right. So talk to me about, thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. Talk to me a little bit about what you heard. What did you hear? What did you not hear? What did you like? What did you not like? Talk to me about what you heard.
You personalized it a lot, like added like a little bit of jokes and like humor, and like that was genuine as well. Like it's not like we're scripted jokes. It's like it just came in conversation.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. And what John is pointing out is everyone's going to have their own style, right? One of the things that I believe is a part of my style is to make things lighter than they may seem, right? Notice we didn't, well, I'm going to give you all your answers. So making things light and not like heavy is definitely one of the ways you can connect with people. I think Donna was next. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, she seemed like a pretty accommodating seller. Like she immediately said she had an open appointment. How do you combat when they aren't so accommodating?
Yes, that's a great question. And so I think what we'll do is I'll run you through one more where Donna maybe is a little bit less accommodating. And yet one of the things I can tell you from 20 years of expired experience is that the smooth is not the right word. The more confident that you sound in asking your questions, the more your calls will go like that and not, I don't want to talk to any realtors. I hate you all. I think you're all terrible. I'm thinking of taking my life, right? All those horrible things that sometimes people think that are going to pop up. That's not to say that every call you make will be that way. If you remember, I asked Donna to be relatively simple so that I could show you the through line. So let's come back to your question in a smidge, Donna. Dana.
Yeah, I noticed that you did not talk about yourself. What you did was focus on what were her goals and her dreams.
Bingo, winner, winner, chicken dinner. There you go. That is exactly what I hoped that you would hear, right? The idea of the expired script that we encourage you to use has everything to do with it being 110% focused on Donna, right? It's about them. It's about pointing them in the direction that they were going in before they got derailed by having their home not sell, right? Notice what didn't I ask her?
You didn't ask for a listing.
I certainly didn't ask for her listing. Absolutely. What else didn't I ask her?
You didn't ask her what her previous agent did or didn't do?
100% didn't talk about the previous agent, didn't talk about the last 6 months, didn't talk about the last experience, didn't talk about the traffic, if she had offers, what, why she thinks the house didn't sell, didn't talk about the price, none of that. Because in order to get an appointment, none of that is relevant. What is relevant is, I'm curious, are you still looking to create the same result? And as soon as Donna said yes, we jumped right to, I'm curious, had you sold your home? Where were you headed? Now we're going to talk about success. We're going to talk about Donna accomplishing her goals. Right now, a real human conversation in that, when Donna said, I'm not sure where I'm going in Florida, right? That was an opportunity for me to say, well, you know what? It's a big state and there are a lot of really great, awesome places to live. Have you narrowed it down any, right? So had I really been in tune with the exact words Donna was saying, we would have addressed the fact that she said, I'm not really sure, right? Boca, great, Boca. Oh, Boca sounds lovely. What's bringing you there? I don't want to be here for winter anymore. Got it. Couldn't agree more, right? Maybe I could have said, oh my goodness, you know what? When you find a place, if you love it, please call me back and let me know, because I may be following you, right? I may be my own next client, bringing, selling my house up here and getting down to Florida. We could be neighbors, right?
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
In a situation that, I'm just curious, would it be appropriate or not appropriate to offer, to offer one of your, to offer a referral agent at that point?
So great question. What is the main goal of the expired call?
Just to get the appointment. So
100%.
Okay, so you wouldn't bring it up there. You might bring it up in the appointment if that came about, but not.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, just making sure.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing I'm focused on now is understanding Donna's motivation to get her home sold, understanding a little bit about her and what her needs are, and then closing for an appointment. And it's the number one thing that derails people from success with expireds, is that we talk too much. We have all these things that we want to share. Right? Donna could have said, oh, I'm thinking of selling it myself. And then I have people going, it is so bizarre. For literally the last 4 hours, someone from United States keeps dialing my phone like ad nauseum. I'm wondering, like, is Joe Biden calling me? Is like, who needs me so badly from Washington? I'm sorry to be so distracted, but it's like an epidemic at this point. United States, who could that be? So recognize that gathering information is what you're there to do. Now, had I asked Donna, actually, Donna, if you can unmute again, and this time when I ask you the question, are you still looking to get your home sold? Give me a negative response in whatever way you choose. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Yes, hi, is Donna Gilbert available?
I'm speaking.
Yeah, Donna, hi, this is Rick Scott with Keller Williams Realty. How are you today?
Oh, I'm okay. You're like the fifth realtor to call me.
Oh my goodness, yes, I can well imagine. So I'm certain that you have now figured out that your home has kind of fallen off the MLS today and is off the market. I don't mean to take much of your time. I just have a quick question for you, and that is, are you still interested in getting your home sold?
I don't know. I may take some time now. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. It doesn't seem like it's right time.
I completely understand. Donna, I'm curious, before I let you go, had you sold your home, where were you headed?
It's an interesting question. Why do you ask me that?
I'm simply trying to gather some information to see how best I can help you, either short-term or long-term. Did you have a destination in mind? Were you headed someplace specific?
Yeah, Florida.
Oh, Florida. Whereabouts in Florida?
Boca.
Boca Raton. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, I haven't been there in a long time. I do love Boca. What's, if you don't mind my asking, what's bringing you down to Boca?
Just want to get away from the winters in the Northeast.
Oh, yes, they are brutal, are they not?
Yeah.
My goodness. Well, and so knowing that your ideal, your reason for heading down to Florida is to escape the winters, I'm curious, when is it you wanted to be down in Florida?
Now would have been perfect. That's why I don't know if I should even bother at this point.
Got it. Yeah, man. It's funny, Donna, I can hear the disappointment in your voice, and I am so sorry that that the first time around didn't work out well for you. Hey, I'm curious, if I could show you a path forward that might create a different result. Say we put your home on the market, and I don't know, say we have a buyer within 30 days or so. If we could talk about strategies that could make something like that happen to get you to Florida so that you didn't have to spend another dreadful winter in Connecticut, would that be worth 30 minutes of your time?
It would, but I don't know what you're going to do that's going to be different from my last agent.
Yeah, great point. And it's exactly why we need to meet. One of the things I specialize in is getting homes sold that didn't sell the first time around. And so I have some time. I wouldn't mind stopping by maybe later today at 4:30, or if you needed something later, I could probably do 7 or 7:30. Do either of those times work for you?
Can you just send me some information so I can take a look?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot. Unfortunately, the things that we really need to discuss to create the success and the result that you're looking for are really best discussed in person with some awesome visuals to really help guide you in the right direction so you can make a really awesome decision. So it'd be much better if we could spend just 30 minutes together. Do you have time later today at any of the times that I mentioned?
Sure, I could do 7, but I'm not sure if I'm signing anything.
Yeah, no, you know what? I so appreciate the 7 o'clock. Let's just do this. Let's just talk for 30 minutes, see how I might be able to help you and make decisions from there. How's that sound?
It sounds great if you can do it.
Excellent. You know what? I so look forward to seeing you at 7 o'clock tonight. You have an awesome day today.
You too.
Bye-bye. Right. So one of the things I want you to recognize is it's always another question, right? It's always another question. The other thing I want you to recognize, and I'm going to get to the hands that are up, right? The other thing I want you to recognize is that this time Donna said, I don't think we're going to put our house on the market. Where did we go from a scripting perspective? The exact same place as when she said yes, right? So remember, when you ask, are you interested in getting your home sold? If the answer is yes, the next line in the script is, I understand. I'm curious, had you sold your home, where were you headed? If Donna says, no, I'm not interested, or I don't think I'm going to sell my house, the answer is, I understand. Hey, I'm curious, had you sold your home, where were you headed? If she says, hell no, I'm never going to talk to another real estate agent for as long as I live, the answer is, oh my goodness, you know what? Trust me, when you say that you've had it with real estate agents, believe you me, I work with them every single day. I know exactly how you feel. Hey, before I let you go, I'm curious, had you sold your home, where were you headed? Right? So yes, no, or hell no, you simply continue to move in the direction of, I'm going to gather some data and understand better what Donna's motivation is. This time she even challenged the question. Well, that's a curious question. Why are you asking me that? Okay, so John, then Marion, then Alex, in that order. Go ahead, John.
So I was gonna ask. So I learned in like I think it was a psychology class that you should like mimic the body language or like the tonality of the person that you're talking to. You were a lot more upbeat like throughout most of the call, and then eventually like Donna eventually kind of like matched your tone towards the end once you kind of built the rapport. But in the beginning, like she was a lot more like lower in energy level, and you were a lot higher, but you still kept your high energy.
Yeah, so that's a really good point and question. My answer to that is this, and it may not be what they teach in psychology class, but here's my answer from a sales perspective. I believe that mimicking and matching is 1,000% valid and mostly important when you are face to face, right? Because you're mirror and matching, you're mimicking body language more than anything. My intent on the telephone, right? Remember, because you lose so much on the phone, my intent is to push positive vibes as best I can, right? And so if Donna's kind of down in the dumps, for me to get down in the dumps with her just kind of validates that she should feel down in the dumps about what she's doing. My goal is instead to try and lift her up. And interesting what you said, John, is that at some point she kind of brought her energy back up towards mine. That was the intent, because what I wanted to do was point Donna in a positive direction, remind her about why she went on the market in the first place, talk about how awesome it will be down in Florida, right? By sending her back there in her head. And if what that does is bring her up to me, that's part of why I got the appointment, right? The other part of it is because Donna knows that we have to end at 6, and so she didn't want to continue to the role play. But the idea of, right, so some of that becomes real after a while. So I am not poo-pooing mimicking and matching or mirror and matching. I 100% believe in it. I stay more focused on it when I'm in person. And when I'm on the telephone, I'm attempting to kind of lift people with some positive energy and excitement and humor and keeping it light, instead of getting sucked down into the dreary, oh my goodness, yes, it is. You know, even the comment I made about real estate agents, right? Trust me, I work with them every single day. Ha ha ha, right? So I kind of like threw our own industry under the bus. That's my attempt at keeping it light and sitting on the same side of the table as Donna, instead of being apologetic and being so, and you know, I can say I'm sorry, but I can say I'm sorry in an upbeat manner. Oh man, I am so sorry that you experienced that. Man, oh man, that is so not what real estate experiences should look like. And to that, I am so glad I called, right? One of the things I have an expertise in is making sure that my clients experience the results-based, have a results-based experience that matches their needs and desires. How would that be? Would that be worth 30 minutes of your time to talk about that result? Ooh, baby. Makes me all tingly. Right? I'm more than willing to sound like a total goofball on the telephone, as long as it's sincere, right? That doesn't mean it has to be sincere, right? Sincere and goofy is different than just flat out goofy. Because if it's just sound like a total goof, well, who's gonna list their $700,000 home with a moron, right? Nobody. But keeping it light, being a little goofy, and maintaining confidence and professionalism with an expertise to get the job done, that's always been a real winning combination for me. Marion. You are muted.
I thought Donna was terrific and Sophie, quiet. Shh. Okay. Was terrific in her objections. One additional one, if I were in her role, you know, I didn't have a great experience. I think next time round, I'm going to have to consider more carefully the agent that I go with. And so they may be reluctant to, okay, you know, to just meet with a single agent, that they want to do more due diligence and poke around.
So that may well be true. I can also tell you that experience tells me that may always be true, right? When you're looking at setting appointments with sellers, you may always have you may get a seller who decides they want to talk to 17 people, right? The skill there is to simply show up as the one and put that out of their head. right? And we're going to talk late this week into early next week when we start, our seller unit about exactly how to do that, how to show up as the one. Because here's what I can tell you. Most people are uninterested in having 3 or 4 or even 2 of the same conversations with realtors over and over again. People don't want that. The reason they do it is because the first person they talk to isn't confident enough and convince them that they're the right one for them. They also bring to the table this idea that, and this is an important concept to hear, because it has to do with real estate agents, their egos, and how their egos get in the way of their own success. We're going to teach you a listing consultation where you don't bring a number to the table. You bring data and information and help the seller make a decision about how they're going to list their property. Most real estate agents ride in on a white horse saying, don't worry, I'm here with all of your answers. And the only thing that does is send a message to sellers that the data, the information, the decisions that have to be made about the pricing of the house are somehow different depending on the agent. Because agents say things like, I did my work and here's my opinion, here's what I think, and instead of detaching themselves from that and helping sellers understand that there's just one set of data. We're just going to look at one set of data. You can parade 17 people through the house. There's one set of numbers that make sense, right? And so when you can help sellers understand that and confidently walk them through it and then ask them what they think about moving forward, guess what? You've now shown up as the one. There's no reason to see other people. What are other people going to say? It's all the same data. And yet most of us don't do that. Most of us make it about us and about our interpretation of the data, which works entirely against what you're looking to accomplish. Because now you've planted the seed in the seller's mind that somebody else, like if I don't like Rick's number, well, if I have somebody else come in, maybe I like their number better, because we haven't detached the agent from the data. That's how you show up as the one. We're going to teach you how to do that. And to Marion's point, might there always be somebody who says, I'm going to interview 6 people before I make a decision next time? Sure thing. And if that comes up, then my objection handler to that would be, I completely understand. I'm curious, when are you starting that process? Because the best way I know how to not sell your house is to not have it on the market. So why don't we do this? Let's start that process immediately. I have some time later today at 4:30 or 6 o'clock, which works best for you. I'm still going to book the appointment. I'll just go and be first. Let's get that process underway. And then I'm going to show up at Marion's house and make sure that I don't leave without the listing. Does it work 100% of the time? Of course not, right? Nothing I teach you is going to work 100% of the time. There is nothing that's 100%. But I'll take 90% of the time. And experience tells me that what we're talking about does work 90% of the time. Does that answer that, Mary?
Thank you. But in your experience, the reason for most expireds, it's a variety of things, but is it most often price?
Yeah, so great question. Let's answer that question, right? So Marion's question is it most often price?
Yes.
So the number one answer is absolutely price. Just so we can get a full big old list so that you're clear about what causes properties not to sell. If the number one answer is price, what is the number 2 answer?
Marketing?
Price.
Who said price?
Me.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, so the number 2 answer is actually also price. What is the number 3 answer? Yeah, you're all starting to catch on, right? We could keep going. There is one reason why a house doesn't sell, and it is the price and positioning that is given to it by the seller. There is no other reason. If you have a house that is on the train tracks, guess what? It's not the train tracks that are causing the property not to sell. Because at some price, that 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath colonial, 4,000 square feet, that would be $800,000 someplace else, and is only $550 because it's on the train tracks, will sell to somebody who needs that amount of space.
So do you rely on MLS for the comps, and then do you have a sort of range from there that you float around, or you go right with the the comps?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you to hold that question. We are getting there, right? We're just not there yet. When we hit the seller unit on Thursday, we're going to work through that with the scripts, and I'm going to spend almost an entire session with you guys on pricing and what that looks like and how you pull it all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But I'm so glad you asked that question, Marion, because there is only one reason a house doesn't sell, and that is price. And we can fill our heads with a whole bunch of other reasons why something might not sell. The reality is, at some price, everything will sell. Well, it's crappy. It's in terrible condition. Yep, lower the price. Somebody will buy it and knock it down. Someone will buy it, fix it up. It's all about price. Every single time. Okay, Alex, and then Donna.
Yeah, I'm so relieved to know that you're not 100% accurate all the time. That's amazing.
No such thing as 100%.
Or 100% successful, I should say.
Yeah, indeed, indeed.
Thank you for that. But what struck me and got my spidey senses going was at the very end of your interaction with Donna, when she said to you, "But I don't think I'm going to be signing anything," and you just blew right by it. And often we take that bait.
Right. And so, yeah, so that's another really good catch, right? I think what I said afterwards, and if I didn't, I should have, I think I said, "I understand." And then just kept going and pushed for the appointment, right?
I don't even know if you did that. I think you just pushed. And I
Right,
don't
so-
know, I mean, it's good to say, but it's not absolutely necessary. And in that case, I didn't miss it.
Yeah, indeed. Right. So validation is never the wrong path, right? Because what you want to make certain you're doing is making the person on the other end of the conversation feel right and heard, right? Because all humans want two things in life. They want to look good in front of other people and be right, right? And everybody wants to be heard. So when you come at a conversation by making sure that, I could have invalidated what Donna was saying. Well, I'm certainly not signing anything. Oh, you're kidding. Well, why would that be? Explain more about that. Well, why on earth would I want her to explain more about that? I'm just validating the negative. Instead, I think what I did say was, you know what, I look forward to seeing you at 7 o'clock. I'm excited to talk. Let's just have a conversation about what your desires and your needs are, and we'll go from there. I think I said something to that effect, right? And so the idea of simply hearing, and Alex makes a really great point. And so let's push the pause button a second again and address this. One of the things that Alex used the words "take the bait." We tend to take the bait a lot when people say something that we feel internally, right? So when Donna said, "I'm not signing anything," we feel that internally. It feels like rejection. It feels like, oh my goodness, it's a brick wall. It's going to be a hard conversation. I'm not sure if I know enough to deal with this. Maybe she has horns and fangs and long claws, and right. So all these things start going on in our minds and in our bodies because we felt something by words. I will tell you that what experience and time and confidence and skill start to take away, those words that Donna said were just simply words. I know why she said them. She said them because she's disappointed. She said them because she doesn't want to get married to me on the telephone. And yet what I do know is that she's looking for someone to solve a problem. And I know I'm that guy, right? And so instead of taking the bait of I'm not signing anything, I know that's just another deflection technique, right? Frankly, she's already said what I was looking for her to say. She said, I'll meet with you. She could have called me every name in the book after that. As long as she said, I'll meet with you, I'm going to dismiss all the rest of it, right? Maybe maybe add some humor in there. My goodness, you know a lot of curse words. I'm impressed. We'll definitely have a good time when we meet tonight. And when I say those things, I don't want you guys to think that I'm saying that for the humor of our class together. I'm saying that because when you start to really listen to people and recognize how to help move them forward and also achieve the appointment, which only serves to move them forward, you do and you say some like crazy, goofy things. And when you do it from a place of being genuine, right? So if Donna said them out of anger and frustration, I might not let that pass. I might say, my goodness, Donna, I am so sorry that you sound kind of angry, and I can't blame you. I am so sorry that you had a bad experience. I so look forward to meeting you in person this evening to see if we can't just turn that experience right around. It kind of hurts my heart that you're upset. And I will do my best tonight in our meeting to help really refocus this entire experience on the results that you need and deserve. Does that sound like a plan or an agenda for us tonight? Donna's never going to say no to that, because I feel for her. And now again, Donna wasn't that upset in our role play. She was a little just more down. But remember, sometimes people are upset, and to not recognize that they're upset when they really are upset is weird, right? I think it's not a human approach to things. So I just would use it to my advantage. Oh my goodness, you sound so upset. I am so sorry. It sounds like you did not have the best experience. To that, I am so glad I called today. And I'm just going to start building a relationship with Donna to repair the hurt and the anger and the whatever that she might feel towards and here's the other thing I want you to remember. If she's upset or she's angry or she's short or whatever, you can't take that personally. Donna doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. So what I know is it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with her scenario. And so I can live on the outside of that because it's not personal. She's never even met me. How can she think I'm a horrible, terrible human when she hasn't even ever met me, right? So you have to remember to always have those conversations from the outside looking in. Be present, but have them from the outside looking in to be able to help people through that. If the second you start taking it personally, you start sounding defensive, and there's just no good comes from that conversation. Donna, and then Donna.
What if I don't specialize in getting expired sold? Am I saying that anyway? Is that fake it till you make it?
So great question. And so what I would encourage is, if you don't have experience in putting expireds back on and getting them sold, you can still use that script. You just have to change the pronoun from I to my team and I. Right? So you can validly say, now that you are a part of this organization, my team and I have an expertise in getting homes sold that didn't sell the first time around. Right? So you can still use that script. There are other scripts that you could replace that with, but if you like that one, I think it's kind of a powerful one, and it doesn't describe you personally yet, that's the reason that you're part of a bigger organization, so that you can pivot that to my team and I. And then, because to say it if you can't back it up, I don't love that, because now there's a version of dishonesty we've allowed to creep in there. So let's keep it honest, right? Which is why it feels ooky. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to say that if it's not true. I couldn't agree more, right? You always want to come from a place of being genuine and of honesty. So my team and I have that specialty that allows you to use the same script and still maintain a place of honesty and integrity. Does that help? Excellent. Donna Gilbert.
And I just want to throw in there, I did do that. I'm not signing anything on purpose. You know that, Rick, because it's often one of the things that you hear once they've said that they'll have an appointment with you, expireds and for sale by owners. Yeah, come on over. I'll hear, I'll look, we'll chat, but I'm not saying it's just a little protection from them. But here's my point. Don't feel the fear, don't feel all of that. I think to myself when they say that, yeah, no, I don't even know if I want this listing yet. So we don't have to worry about whether you're going to sign this or not. I need to come, I need to see the house, we need to chat, I need to know if you are somewhat realistic in your thinking. I got to know if I can even work with you. Can I help you? I don't know that. So the whole fact of I'm not signing anything tonight, yeah, it's a little bit of a smoke screen, and I'm okay with that because I don't know if I'm going to offer you a contract.
That's right. That's right. Right. Well said. Right. Because this is where being a listing agent. Let me have a step back. Coming at things with confidence, right? It takes confidence to recognize that this is a two-way conversation, right? And it's way easy, especially if you're new in the business or relaunching your career, right? To have that thought process, to have it ingrained in your head as, you know, they're interviewing me, right? It's almost like the I'm begging for the business perspective. And I will tell you that one of the best ways to not push confidence forward is to have that in your head, right? That I'm here for them to interview. I would actually come at it from the perspective of I'm here to interview the seller to see if that makes sense to me, right? Which is exactly what Donna was putting on the table. And as I find out more things about them, as I recognize that I absolutely can and desire to help them, then we can pivot our conversation to me being hired. Right? Really great point. Anna.
Yes, I want to add it because we practicing with Lloydie a lot of scripts in the morning. And what we usually added as well to that conversation that just Donna said, we saying like, well, yes, I will come, let's get together and see if we are right match, because we might not be, you know, and it's from perspective, from confidence that I might not even want that.
Yeah, I love it. That's another great script. You know, let's spend 30 minutes together. We'll see if we're a great match. If we are, we'll talk about next steps. And if not, you know what? At least we got to meet another fabulous human, and we'll call it a win anyway, and part ways as friends, right? So it's a win either way, right? You either find somebody who you think is awesome, they think you're awesome, you go into business together, or you just meet another human being. You can't lose, right? And if you'll approach your appointment setting from that perspective, there is no lose of an appointment, right? You either win or you learn, right? What did I learn? If I don't come out of this conversation with a listing, what could I have done differently that maybe would have created a different result? Unless you chose not to, right? If you chose to move forward and you weren't able to secure it, then let's have a conversation around what we can do differently the next time, right? So, guys, this is where we have a closing conversation tonight about closing. And the reason that we put it here after this conversation, because I want you to, I could have had this conversation, and actually in your materials, it's probably 2 or 3 days ago that we had this conversation about some closing scripts and making sure that we're looking for opportunities to close. Here's my concern about that. My concern about that too early on is that we start to judge what we're talking about when we say close. And to many of you, it starts to sound like, we're on the used car lot and not letting the person, go and keeping our claws into them. I will tell you that closing in my world today has everything to do with making sure that I have heard as clearly and validly as possible anything and everything the potential client needs and wants to share with me, and offering a solution to solve whatever issue they may put on the table, right? If I'm having a conversation with Donna and the problem isn't clear, there's no way for me to offer a solution to that because I don't understand the problem, right? And so one of the things that, one of the rules, if you will, quote unquote rules of closing is that you close anywhere from 3 to 7 times. Now, I could have said that a few days ago and you all would have been like, oh, well, there's like aggressive used car salesman Rick talking about, banging people over the head until they bend to his will, until somehow they submit, right? I hope by bringing it up today, after we've had some conversations about appointment setting and done some role playing about appointment setting and answered some questions about objections that may come up via appointment setting, that what you hear differently is closing has everything to do with not giving up on somebody. It's not about you not giving up to win. It's about making sure that you pursue every available option to not give up on the person sitting across from you or on the other end of the phone, right? It's you not giving up on their results to the point where at some point, there have been times where I've been on the phone with expireds where I have not gotten the appointment, right? Again, nothing works 100% of the time. And I have found myself in a position after asking for the appointment a number of times and being shot down and shot down and shot down and shot down and shot down, where I get to say something to the effect of, it kind of sounds like you've made a decision not to meet, at least with me. And I want to be certain that you understand that the reason I've asked for the appointment so many times is because you put your house on the market for a reason. And I want to take a stand for getting you the result that you deserve. And so if your mind changes in the next 24 hours or so, I would be so honored if we could have the conversation in person to get you where you're looking to go. Right? It's me not giving up on that person. And maybe Donna and I just part company. I hope, and what I would absolutely say to end that call is, Donna, I hope we can part as friends this morning. And again, if you should need me, here's my contact information. How can I best get that to you? Is this the best number? Can I text it to you? Do you have an email? Right? I want to end as someone that she feels like she can call back, because maybe she's just really not having the day that she wanted to have to be able to think clearly, to figure out. I can't tell you how many times I've had expired conversations that and came back to me a day or two later and said, you know what, could we have that half hour? I've been thinking more about what you said. I've been thinking more about moving forward. I've been thinking more about getting my house on the market. And they called me back. Does that help? Does that put things in perspective? So the idea of always be closing, well, yes, absolutely. But that's not a sledgehammer. Instead, it's really more of an invitation. I look at closing as an invitation to assist. And when you look at it that way, pushing forward to get that answer, to get that appointment, to get in front of someone, to be able to help them accomplish their goals, boy, it gets real easy. It gets real easy. It never for a minute feels pushy or aggressive. Because we haven't had this conversation yet. Maybe we'll start tomorrow with my definition of aggressive, right? Because I don't view aggressive as a dirty word like many real estate agents do. I view aggressive as me aggressively looking to assist people in getting them where they want to go. I wear aggressive like a badge, and not in this room. I don't mean that as I wear aggressive like a badge, look at me. I wear aggressive like a badge because I aggressively want to help humans who need help. And I can't think of something better to be aggressive about than helping people accomplish their goals. Right?
Hey, Rick,
Yes, sir.
just one quickie, this last 20 minutes or whatever it's been. Your approach to me is very disarming. That you're able to move from, here's why I'm calling, to, oh, you're moving to Boca. Why would you be doing that? And then you were able to pivot back to really why you called in a really calm manner and answer all of the Donna's objections in a calm, collected manner, and explain to her what it is that you can do for her.
Yeah.
I think it was the whole past, again, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it is, was just brilliant. Not to mention that Donna wasn't brilliant, but Donna was brilliant too.
Yes. Well,
The other thing, just a quickie, because you mentioned something on, when you mentioned it, I just thought of something. If you think houses don't sell near the railroad station, for anyone who's really, really interested, go on to 95 and drive in from Stanford into Greenwich and look over the overpass at the multi-million-dollar houses that are in between 95 and the railroad that have sold for, and you probably know better than I do, Rick, for millions of dollars. So somebody's out there that will buy that house.
100%. Very good point. Very good point. Right. Let's end on this, because Cal's the word Cal used is exactly the intent. It's disarming. And with an expired scenario, almost 90% of the time, the first task is to disarm and win trust back, and then move the forward. And so between Cal and Donna, right, you disarm, you win the trust back, and then it's just a conversation between two human beings. And I know each and every one of you is skilled at doing that. You all talked on the phone at some point today, and it wasn't hard and it wasn't weird, and you didn't have to think about the words. You just communicated a message and listened to the response, and then like a fellow human responded back. That's all this is, with a goal in mind to help people move forward. Think about that overnight. We'll answer some more questions on it tomorrow morning. We'll go through the remainder of our sources of business tomorrow, and then pivot right into sellers. I'm excited to get to sellers with you. Guys, have a fabulous evening. Have a great dinner.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rick.
Sure thing.
Thank you.